I've always had a vivid imagination, but this dream unsettled me. It was wild and dark and weird, even by my standards. So yes, it began with a dream. Following a typical nightmare pattern, I was late, desperately trying to reach my destination, a lighthouse. For some urgent reason, I couldn't remember. I'd been driving too fast down a coastal road to get there.
You would be forgiven for misremembering Alan Wake as a commercial home run for Remedy Entertainment. Despite its recent rejuvenated appeal with forthcoming sequel to boot, it's been a rocky road for the eponymous beleaguered writer since his first journey into the dark reaches of Bright Falls was first released as an Xbox 360 exclusive all the way back in May of 2010. Despite the game spawning 2 DLC and a standalone digital spin-off, it's fair to say that Alan Wake never really found enough of an audience at that time. There have been grumblings of a sequel for the best part of a decade, but with modest sales figures of the original topping roughly 3 million, then owners Microsoft opted to pool their resources into other projects with more widespread appeal, rather than finance Alan Wake 2. Fast forward to 2022, and with the IP now firmly in Remedy Entertainment's hands, Alan Wake's sequel is on the horizon. Touted as Remedy's first survival horror title, Alan Wake 2 looks like it'll be delving deep into the surreal macabre atmosphere which made the original so compelling. In lieu of an in-depth trailer, which Remedy says they won't be releasing until after this summer, we'll have to study the sequel's grainy concept art to garner any further clues as to the direction the sequel might be heading in. Of the 5 images recently released, 3 are dimly lit urban environments. They're scenes that are familiar to anyone who's been to a city. The toying with familiarity, a ploy that makes horror so unsettling. We know something's amiss, but presently we don't know what. A vague depiction of supernatural presence is Alan's only company on the desolate streets. Elsewhere, last year Alan Wake's Remastered is heading to the Nintendo Switch this year, lassoing yet more players into the game's unique brand of eeriness after the release made its way to PlayStation for the first time in 2021. Clearly, Alan's stock is on the rise, but what is the driver behind this newfound interest? As I've already mentioned, the title didn't immediately gain a sizable fanbase back in 2010. Of course, the fact that the game was on Xbox 360 exclusive limited its player base, and that it was released the same month as Red Dead Redemption, Rockstar's Wild West opus that had presumably overshadowed any game released in the same window. But surely it's deeper than that. From the outside looking in, Alan Wake seems impenetrable. Despite its enduring cult status, Alan Wake is opaque and unfamiliar. It's unique, strange even. Was there an appetite for this brand of storytelling at that time? It's only in the preceding years has a fondness for surreal stories in mainstream media had a resurgence. Twin Peaks, David Lynch mystery horror series similarly set in the Pacific Northwest and key point of reference for Remedy, received a 3rd series in the 2010s. The X-Files, another mainstay of 1990s supernatural fiction, made a comeback in 2018. As these shows prove, and how Alan Wake Remastered demonstrates, it's not the media that's changed, but the audience's appetite. Indeed, reviews for Alan Wake Remastered celebrated its surrealness whilst pointing out that the fact that its glossy visual update does little to fix the game's cloying gameplay, jarring facial animations, and occasional jankiness in cutscenes. Indeed, the primary means of eliminating the ghostly Taken with the torch shoot 1-2 punch, whilst cool at first, suffers from repetition as the game progresses. The saving grace in this regard, though, is the fact that Alan Wake is a medium-length game. That's about 10 to 15 hours and you're done. So the inherent clunkiness of repetitiveness doesn't outstay its welcome. So with the game receiving a new lick of paint, what else is behind the rise of Alan Wake? Well, video game audiences' fondness for cinematic experiences has matured over the past decade, in line with hardware. The widescreen cinematic qualities of Red Dead Redemption and Alan Wake were somewhat ahead of the curve back in 2010. Since then, Red Dead Redemption 2 and even Remedy's own Control have contributed to Alan Wake's renewed interest as gaming audiences crave movie-like experiences. But there is another aspect that is somewhat unique to Remedy's style, and that is the experimental interplay between the narratives they craft and in-game television. You may have heard that alongside the upcoming sequel, there's also a TV series in the works. In fact, it was first reported in 2018 that Alan Wake would be adapted to television, well before the sequel was announced, before Alan Wake Remastered, even before Remedy's biggest game to date, Control, complete with Alan Wake's secrets and dedicated DLC. But all has been quiet until Remedy creative director Sam Lake confirmed AMC had bought the rights and were working in collaboration with Remedy to bring Alan Wake to the small screen. Alan Wake is joining a gluttony of video games receiving TV adaptations, but it's the episodic nature of Alan Wake, with each of the game's chapters framed as episodes, meaning this adaptation makes a lot of sense. It's a natural fit. Plus, it's no secret consumer viewing habits have evolved over the last few years, with binge-worthy TV series on streaming platforms now the primary way we consume visual media. So Alan Wake was playful, and somewhat experimental back in 2010, but video games blurring the lines between TV episodes and gameplay is still largely unexplored territory. And you know, Remedy's handling of the Alan Wake IP over the years deserves recognition too. Releasing the game on Steam in 2012 exposed Alan Wake to a wide spectrum of PC players, and whilst the game was still small time, Remedy pooled their resources into nurturing a community around the game's mystery, pulling on its intrigue to draw players into its lore. Microsoft likely wouldn't see it as financially viable, so Remedy taking the reins was a shrewd move. There's connective tissue to all of Remedy's properties. Control's Altered World Events DLC provided more than a knowing wink to a longtime Alan Wake fan, with its story fleshing out the events in Bright Falls and the malleable reality in the Cauldron Lake Threshold. As I say, Remedy also hoped for a sequel. They even shopped a prototype proof of concept video to Microsoft in 2012, the results of which evolved into Quantum Break. But after a few false starts and bumps in the road, it appears now, after 12 years, Remedy finally has the game they've always intended, and a wider connected Remedy universe with an audience primed and ready to delve back into Alan's unique brand of weirdness. Alan is a flawed character, his hack-style thriller writing not the most impressive, but when all is said and done, Alan's story is evocative, relatable yet unfamiliar, and just plain interesting. Did you know? We at GamingBolt upload new videos every day. Stick around, drop a like, subscribe, and let us know what kind of content you would like to see in the future with a comment below.